On the night of my 19th birthday, I was planning on committing suicide. I was going to end my life with an overdose. I had gotten a bunch of cocaine that I stole from my mom. I had gotten a bunch of pills also from her. She was a walking medicine cabinet. And I bought a bunch of LSD off the streets. And my plan was to spend the day as normal as possible and then go to that field behind the restaurant Casa Bonita and end my life. You guys are all from Colorado probably, or a lot of you are. You probably know Casa Bonita, but if you don't, it's a big pink Mexican restaurant with cliff divers and a guy in a gorilla suit, and they have this big village inside of it, and it really is like that. They did an episode on South Park. That restaurant really is like that. But behind there, back in the 90s, there was a field. And in that field, if you laid in it, there was a little dip, and you couldn't see yours from the street. So if you're walking by, it didn't look like there was a body there. And up to 19 years old, I had reached a point in my personal depression and pain and a lifetime of abuse and degradation from my family and from myself and from the world in general, that I was just tired. I was tired of being a burden. I was tired of being a monster to myself and everybody else. I was tired of being the problem that everybody else had to solve. So I was going to end my life. But in that day, I was trying to act like everything was normal. I'd had interventions in the past. I had had people come and try to stop me because of my depression before, and I didn't want any of that. I wanted to be as normal as possible. So I went to my friend's house, trying to act like a regular day. Went to my buddy Mike's house. Mike was my best friend at that time. He was the best source of good in my life. And he was the place where I was kind of my safe home base. So I would go to his house and hang out all the time. He was a very social person. Mike had a social circle of his own. One of these people is this girl named Amber. Okay? Amber was always really nice to me. She was Mike's friend. She was his contact. But we'd always go hang out. She was super friendly, super kind. Go over to her house, watch movies, listen to music, hang out. So I show up to Mike's house with all the drugs in my pocket, and he tells me, hey, we're going to go kick it at Amber's today. I'm thinking, great. That's a great last day. I'm going to go spend it with two of my favorite people, and then I'm going to go to that field, and I'm going to end my life. And I feel like it's a good way to end my whole existence. Then I get there, and that wasn't how it happened at all. I walked into a surprise birthday party for me. I walked into about 14 people singing happy birthday, and Amber had baked a blueberry peach pie, and there was a bunch of decorations up. And I walked past them and dropped all my drugs in the toilet. That was the last time in my life I ever tried to kill myself. But you know what's really amazing about that story is when we left Mike's house, there was no party waiting for me. We left Mike's house, and he called ahead. He said, hey, I got Aaron in the car, and it's his birthday today. And Amber already had the friends over. She already made the pie. But they were a bunch of artist friends. They got together, they made a bunch of decorations, they threw it up really quick. I walked into a fundamentally life-changing experience that altered me to the very core of my existence that my friend put up in 5 minutes because a buddy was having a party. Because she decided to treat me like I was a human. At a time when I felt absolutely inhuman, she treated me with kindness and humanity. Now, I came out with my story in 2018, and I told the world about how my own life of pain and abuse had led me down a path of destruction and almost caused me to commit a terrible attack. And thanks to me coming out with my story in 2018, I've had the honor of going around to conferences and seminars and various events across the country to speak to different audiences about how to talk to that kid in the dark. And when I'm talking conferences, I don't mean audiences like this, which is great, but this is more of a celebrity thing. I mean more like law enforcement conferences, talking to the FBI for 2 hours, talking with their threat assessment teams about how can I deal with that kid in the dark and how can I deal with depression. And what do they want from me when I go there? I was almost a school shooter in my previous TED Talk. If you haven't seen it, like she said before, that was my first story that I told on stage. So what do they want from me when they bring me out there? They don't want to talk about the details that I might have done or the attack I might have had planned or the victims that might have happened. They want to find out, how can I reach that kid in the dark and show him that he's human? How can I find a way to touch that kid in the dark and remind him that he's okay and he can make it? And the people that are asking me this, again, remember, that's a normal conversation to have. But think that the people that are having it are these officers and these agents and these people with badges and titles and guns and full body suits of armor and titles longer than my name that are asking me to find out, how can I be human? It's such a powerful thing, that humanity. After one of these conferences, I had the honor of standing in. We finished the conference, and everybody's having this big poker night, okay? And there's poker tables everywhere, and everybody's doing this raffle thing. So you play the poker, you win the raffle games, you get the prize, all right? And the people playing this, these are all the law enforcement of this town, all the school administrators, all the SROs, all the federal agents, FBI, again, people with badges and guns who will handle all the criminals, a safe room for people walking in, for sure. Okay? So these people are walking around having their time. And I had just finished my speech. And this gentleman walks up to me. And he looks like, if you think in your head what an old grizzled cowboy from the Old West looks like, that's what this guy was. Looked like he just walked in off the Old West, just came in from the saloon. Looked like he had walked down 50,000 miles of road and seen some stuff that no one's ever going to want to see, and heard some things that he'll never tell anybody in his life. And this gentleman walks up to me and he's got tears in his eyes. And he comes up to me stuttering. He says, "Sir, I just have to say. And I say, "Sir, it's okay." And I can tell this man doesn't want to hug. He's not a hugger. So I put my hand on his shoulder. And I say, "Sir, it's going to be all right." And he starts opening up to me and he says, "Son, I have to say, my son, he committed suicide last year. My partner, he committed suicide 3 years ago. And I deal with those demons all the time. I'm always fighting against them." And I saw him look up and I saw him do math in his head as he looked around this room of all of his peers, people that have seen him on the job for 30, 40 years, that have never seen him access these emotions, have never seen a tear come to this man's eye, and he's about to cry in front of all of his peers. And I see him do the math in his head and fight against the fear that he has. He probably doesn't have fear about anything in his life. He's stared down guns and criminals and gangs, and he has fear in a room full of all of his peers because he's accessing a part of his humanity he's never touched. And I see him do the math in his head. And he does. He pushes through, and he starts to cry. And we stood there for 20 minutes in this room full of crying. Two people that from the outside would be entirely different worlds. I might even be one of the suspects he has to handle someday. But for just that minute, just that little bit of time, shared humanity saved the day. Humanity is so powerful. Being human is so powerful that those friends that I told you about that saved my life with that blueberry peach pie, Amber, she's sitting in the audience with you guys right now today. You want to hear something really cool? Before the show, guess what she walked up and handed me? A blueberry peach pie. She baked it and brought it to me for free. People have told me, talking about this story, that somehow I'm brave. I always bristle at that because bravery is acting in the face of fear. I'm not afraid of any of my life. I've owned it. I hated myself for so long. I can't be judged by anybody anymore. I judge myself too much. So I'm not afraid of my life. But that man who stood there in that room of his peers and opened up that emotion, that was bravery. That was fighting in the face of fear. If I could inspire him to talk when I'm not afraid of my own life, what can he inspire if he talks? What can the next person inspire if they open up and show that they're powerful and can be open up and access those emotions? What can happen if we all decide that we can be human? Thank you. I would like, Amber, you want to come up on stage and say hi? This is the friend that saved my life.